Imperva is the cybersecurity leader whose mission is to protect data and all paths to it with a suite of integrated application and data security solutions. Learn more at imperva.com.
Sean,
Marco,
we are here to deliver a message from the RSA conference team.
it's an important message from our friends. RSA Conference 2025, just around the corner, where insights drive action, solutions emerge, and community connections spark innovation. You'll be there. I'll be there. We invite everybody else to be there April 28th through May 1st. You can secure your spot at rsaconference.com/ITSPMAG25. That's ITSPMAG25. See you all there.
I'll be there. See you there.
And hello, everybody. You're very welcome to a new episode of Redefining Cybersecurity here on ITSP Magazine. This is Sean Martin, your host, where if you listen to the show, you know I get to talk to lots of cool people about cool topics ranging all over the business, from security operations to managing risk and privacy and meeting compliance. And of course, at the core of a lot of the business, especially today, is technology. Companies use and build technology to enable them to achieve new things for all of its customers and partners. And I don't know, I'm thrilled to have Izar on with me. Izar, how are you? Are you feeling the vibe, my friend?
Thank you. I feel the vibe.
You feel the vibe?
We are vibe podcasting here. It's
vibe.
extremely vibing. Yeah.
This is going to be a vibe pocket. There's no rules, no script. We're just going to go with the flow, which is the whole thing here.
We'll just click and see where it goes.
Let's let it happen. So the topic today is vibe coding, and we're going to have a lot of fun with this, I think. Before we get into it, fellow podcaster Izar, a little bit about yourself, what you do, and who you talk to on your podcast, perhaps even.
So, first of all, thanks for having me here. It's really no less than an honor to be in such an established and popular podcast. So, thank you for the opportunity. And I am currently a senior principal security architect in a very large entertainment organization. And prior to this, I have worked in a number of big, not so big, and small places. So in the last, I don't know, hurts to say 20-something years, almost, I have amassed a lot of experience seeing different facets of security, working, not working, things improving, things going backwards. So I like to think that I am equipped to give opinions. I don't expect people to agree with them or even understand them most of the time, sometimes because of the accent, but I do feel equipped to give them anyway. And since nobody's paying me to give opinions, I feel even more equipped to say whatever I'm thinking without thinking of other stuff like that, right? And I'm very fortunate to be able to do that almost once a week with Matthew Coles and Chris Romeo in the Security Table podcast, where basically we just tune in to have fun and riff about something that is related to security somehow, specifically application security. And many times we have circled around this topic that we're going to vibe on today, but we haven't really touched on it. And I think Wednesday I had an impromptu rant on LinkedIn.
Yes.
And I think that's what led us to here.
Absolutely. Thanks for pointing that out. I'll include a link to that post, which is the inspiration for me reaching out and inviting you to join me. And hopefully you'll share with me an episode that you all do when you have it as well.
Sure.
So I can hear the broader perspective. I know we were hoping to get somebody else on with us today, but that wasn't happening. But
yep.
The two of us will vibe well together nonetheless. So clearly my audience, security leaders, CISOs, folks working in the SOC, analysts, system managers, system engineer, architects, a whole lot of folks get the joy of securing stuff that's bought commercially, securing stuff that's implemented by solution providers and tuned and tweaked to match the environment, stuff built by companies themselves. And it's that last part that I think, at least my perspective, is the most challenging for security teams, because they have an opportunity to make a difference in what gets developed and deployed, but there's a lot of angst in that relationship. And I think a lot of organizations, I've worked for some large ones and some smaller ones where they develop stuff, and most of the time there's a structured process, some life cycle of coding life cycle and process for how to build stuff, and teams kind of follow that. What we're talking about today, though, is vibe coding, which is the other end of the spectrum, where it's not here's a way to develop code, but it's a feeling of code, right? And I'm not going to do it justice, my understanding of what it means. Maybe you can kind of take the reins here and give us a feel for what vibe coding is.
So I'm probably not going to make it justice as well, but I can offer what I understand of it and what prompted my rant. And apparently, I forget the name of the gentleman, Karpati or something like that. He came out with a post on X describing a situation or an experience where he started interacting with an LLM and basically describing the things that he wanted to happen and describing his design. And apparently, this mass of code, functional working code, just emerged in some magical form. And all of a sudden, things were ready to deploy, publish, or whatever. And everybody lived happily ever after.
I'm going to pause you quickly because I did a little bit of research, and evidently, early days of Twitter, Dorsey and team actually used a form, according to our good friend, prompted through an LLM based or user interface based LLM. So early days of Twitter, vibe code driven, and evidently there's a hardcore mode at the current X that is also vibe driven, according to this particular resource. So there are large organizations, even if one was their infant state. The new iteration of it is not in its infancy, but there are organizations using this model for sure, or style.
And my question to the world at large, apart from the obvious why, where the answer is because we can.
It's usually the case.
my real question here is, haven't we learned anything? Are we really, really willing to go by and just repeat the errors of the past and now even intensify them in the name of cheap and fast? Doesn't anybody remember the cheap, fast, and good thing? So, when I see people claiming the absolute advantages and miracles that vibe coding can bring one, and having experimented, and that there is a feeling of acceleration to be able to just describe what you want, or just select a piece of code and say what you really, really want it to do, and just see things happening in front of us, right? And when it works wonderful. So I don't want anybody thinking that I am some kind of Luddite here that's like screaming at the blue sky and saying, "Oh, in my day it was harder, so today it has to be harder too." No,
get off my lawn.
exactly. I'm fine with progress. What I'm less fine with, again, is not learning from the past. Right? Best of my understanding today, coding AI is what we should be classifying as a junior programmer. Sure, they know how to write the Fibonacci sequence functions wonderfully, and they know how to sort matrices and whatnot, because that stuff is in the books that were used in the model. but starts requiring a bit more from it, requesting a bit more from it, and things take a turn very fast. Apart from that, they have many times been trained on perhaps code that wasn't the best. And add to that hallucination, and things start getting the delta of acceptance here starts getting way too large, right?
Yeah. Let me. I'm going to play a little. I'm on your side mostly. I think just because I have enough gray hair.
We haven't yet said what my side is.
That's true. I have a feeling though, but I don't know. Maybe not. But anyway, I've seen a lot of stuff in 30 plus years that I've been doing this too. But so my devil's advocate side is perhaps, and I don't know, maybe if we look at it from a security perspective, where I'm always ranting, security gets left behind in the innovation on the innovation train. Maybe there's an opportunity here. But I guess my point is, if the feeling of what I want to achieve can be expressed, perhaps I can see an outcome that I want and find a way there, technically with the code, that I might not be able to do just by knowing how to code properly. So that's my devil's advocate side of saying, is there an opportunity? Now, I'm not saying build stuff and then let it fly. I think, to your point of junior programmer, have to be some guardrails and some checks and balances, and maybe you shore up the team with different skill sets and different sets of processes that help adjust for this. But I just think, because a lot of time building stuff, a lot of time you get caught in the code and you forget what the objective is or what the outcome should be. You might even reach the objective but not achieve the ultimate outcome with the code that gets built. So I'm going to leave that there, because I'm probably stirring up a lot of thoughts for many people.
Let me start by saying, I think that the final outcome is the scenario that you're describing. I'm just going to throw out there that if you're on one side of the river and your final objective is to get to the other side of the river, if that bridge between both points is going to fall as soon as you step on it, it doesn't help that you are seeing your objective. Right? The bridge got constructed, but it's rickety. It's going to fall.
You have to swim across.
My point is that today, and again, I'm not a Luddite, so I recognize that we have really, really, really good tooling out there that can help us make that bridge stronger, right? We have some great examples of even AI-based stuff that's reading code and checking it for security, but even that stuff is fallible. Perhaps it has been better trained towards security, but it's still fallible. But it's fallible in the same way that other more traditional tools are. My point is that historically we have had a problem with educating programmers towards security. It has been, in my experience, one of the most difficult obstacles to go over. Doesn't matter how much guidance we give them. Doesn't matter how many FAQs we ask them to write. It doesn't matter how many reductions we do in the requirements, just bringing things to their absolute principles and asking them to have that thing in mind. It's extremely difficult. Security is still seen as an obstacle, which might be one of the reasons why people like so much the idea of describe and run programming. The problem, again, is that this being at the level of the junior programmer, we have to consider that code has to be treated in a way that we have to declare it's not secure until I know it's secure. It has to go through the STL. It has to go through all the tools that we have to apply into code. It has to go through all the testing. Then all of a sudden, people are going to say, but wait, I used vibe coding. Of course, the code is perfect. The machine wrote it, right? My specification, but the machine wrote the code, so it must be perfect. And believe me, there's a lot of people assuming that out there. So what I'm worried about is that now we are going to start creating this huge, huge, huge mountain of risk that at the end of the day is going to come out as a huge iceberg of risk because we are not going to apply these tools that we fought so hard to put into place to make things more secure, because people are just going to assume that somebody did it for them in the training of the model or in the writing of the code or the tool that you are using to do your vibe coding. And that's just going to exponentially raise the attack surface that we have to deal with.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
Now, I go back to, in my rant, I go back to the days when Visual Basic came out, right? For those who remember. And some people said, that's it. We don't have to write code anymore. You can just draw your forms and create the business logic, and the code will write itself. And the challenge was, what if you want to do something that Visual Basic is not equipped to do? You want to change some format or something. You have to go into the code and actually see what was written in there. So all of a sudden, you have to understand the code. All of a sudden, you have to be able to modify it in a way that's not going to break anything else. So we are relying on vibe coding for people, and I have met these people who reportedly are not coders, to launch their amazing services and apps. What happens at 3 a.m. when they have a security incident and they have to deal with that? And only then they're going to sit down and say, wait, what does this code do? And why do I think that I'm equipped to learn it or to understand it?
Yeah. You bring up two good points that quickly surfaced for me when I was poking around looking at this. One is interoperability. So this stuff can affect, right? Whatever comes in, if that changes, could affect how this thing works, and the outcome going upstream or back wherever it's going next can also be impacted, which you may not vibe on as you're coding that piece. The other thing that surfaced, which you touched on as well, I think, is the legacy, right? We carry this chain of stuff around with us. And if somebody needs, to your point, somebody needs to go back in and understand why is this doing it this way, and how does it work, and how can I change it to now fit into whatever else we're working on now, or fix a problem or a vulnerability that's surfaced because of it. It becomes a challenge for the teams that need to deal with this code. So even just from a process and longevity and sustainability of the system you're building, I think it introduces a lot of fun stuff that needs to be considered anyway.
Yep. Yeah. And I don't think that people are aware of the risk that they're carrying or starting to carry, especially in big corporations who are taking the reduction approach to this and saying 60% of all code is going to be written blah, 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 blah in 2000 and whatever. But they're not considering that, cool, code gets written, but code needs to be maintained. And environments need to be protected. And that code is the front line of that protection. It's the entry point where bad things are going to happen. So what are you going to do when you notice that the machine that wrote the code isn't as good as at reading it and understanding what went wrong, or simply refuses to work with you, as we have seen some cases in the past 2 weeks where somebody asks for an assistant to write code, and the assistant says, no, I think that you should write this code. Right? I don't know if in jest or not, but I've seen it. I haven't looked under the hood to see if it's true or not, but it's out there.
Right. I can't help it. It's a squirrel moment, but your shirt, I don't know if you wore it purposefully, or a sweatshirt or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Can you
this
show
is
it
to
I'll place you with your name's over us. I can't read the.
Oh, a very short prompt.
Very short. There we go. Nice one. Yeah,
you remember that back in the day, you would say go away, or I'll replace you with a very short script.
Yes, exactly.
So now it's a very short prompt. So I'm adapting to the times. But at the end of the day, what I'm worried about here is that we may be giving up too much too soon. In other words, sure, it's a great piece of technology. It can do great stuff. But perhaps it's not up to where it should be for us to start giving it mission critical responsibilities. And beyond that, if you look at the threats against models that have already been identified, and I joked it the other day that somebody found something now that you can actually write rules that get somehow included into an assistant, and that somehow gets included into the way that the assistant writes code, and that somehow puts bad codes on purpose inside whatever code comes out of there. So there's a lot of this needs to happen, then this needs to happen, then this needs to happen. But at the end of the day, with the ease that we have today of pulling models that say that they do some magical thing and people don't quite look at it, and or people are not even equipped to understand if they do that or not. And with all the supply chain stuff that we have been seeing in the last few years, now we are introducing this new thing, which is supposed to write code for us, which suffers from the same supply chain problem as other things, perhaps even more so because we can't check it as promptly as we would in, say, a Python package, right? And again, now we are giving it the keys to the business and saying, you run. Now, on top of that, add the fact that it's funny to me that people seem to be running away from the fact that coding is basically too formal and you have to know this language in order to get your code to do the thing that you want. But now, to me, they seem to be removing themselves one step further and saying, now I have to explain clearly in some human language what is it that I want to do so that my code can eventually write, so that my machine can eventually write code that will do what I want it to do. So now you have two levels of interaction. And I don't know if you've been following lately, but people are really bad at expressing themselves.
There's that too.
So what's going to happen? Somebody's going to say, oh, you know what? This English language that we use to talk to LLMs, it's too open. We have to create a language based on English that is going to be easier for the LLM to understand. And now we're back to formalization. And now we have, again, two levels of interaction. And now what? We're debugging English in order to debug code. And where does it go? Right?
Exactly. And I think at the core of all this as well, which is maybe why organizations are looking to replace people with, with stuff like AI. People get lazy. People get tired. People hit a certain point and they go, "That's good enough," or I'm tired of beating my head against this problem. I'm just going to let it go as it is because I have this next task that's on my plate, so I can get my bonus or not get fired or whatever it is that's driving them. And I'm so glad you brought up the supply chain because I mean the whole thing of microservices and open source code and third party services that are getting plugged in. I would imagine especially a lot of the open source stuff is Vibe driven. Especially now.
No. I don't think so. I mean,
No.
I'll be the first one to say that I have like the utmost respect for anybody who steps up to write an open source package that actually gets adopted and used.
Okay.
Because that person is just waking up in the morning and asking to suffer the whole day, right? I don't know if you ever went into like the GitHub issues part of any big project and see what people demand from the developers to do for them. No, I don't think that those people are vibe coding. I think that those people take their work very, very seriously, even more so than some commercial efforts.
Yes. No, I do agree with you. I think I misspoke there. I'm thinking more of the either I was thinking open source with an aim to be commercial, where they have the desire to make money.
Yes.
Ultimately,
yes.
I know the community you're speaking to.
Yeah. No. You got a point there.
Wholeheartedly, but I think there are plenty of services that will go out and look up information on who has a home or whatever, right? Data research and whatever that I want to plug in so I can use that information. I don't want to write that myself. Anyway, I think there's a lot of, and will certainly be more of Vibe written code.
There's, if I get correctly what you're saying, that there's a lot of plumbing laying around, and people are going to connect to the plumbing with the Vibe coding.
Yes.
So information that might be protected behind a safe and secure system eventually might get exposed by something that was Vibe coded because it doesn't have the same level of responsibility applied to it. I'm just using the data that they gave me, right?
Exactly.
But here I am just throwing everything in the ground and leaving it exposed for anybody who doesn't have the initial access to that other thing.
Yep.
So I think I see what you mean, and yeah, it's, to me, it's definitely a worry. But again, I'm not saying don't do it. I'm not saying don't work this way. I'm not saying don't develop this approach. What I'm saying is, before you embark into it completely, before you jump into the pool, check if it is the right project, the right time, the right way. Or don't just blindly trust it, as many tend to do, that things are going to be fine just because you didn't insert any mistakes in there.
Right.
Sometimes the mistake is inside the machine.
Exactly. So I'm gonna do maybe spend a minute here on this next thing that I'm thinking of, and then I want to get into maybe how we can guide some folks on what to do, knowing what we just talked about. So I have another podcast that's all about music and looking at technology and creativity and combining those to make new stuff and experience new things. And I had a conversation the other day. It's not published yet. With a good friend of mine. He's a DJ, and a DJ is all about vibing with the room. And so one has to meet, if you want to be successful, meet the needs of the group that you're performing for, right? Which means you might turn the volume, you might change the tone, you might do the speed, you might give them a chance to get to the bar, he said, get a drink. So when they come back for the next song, they're ready to rock and roll. The point being, you meet the needs of that environment. So I'm wondering if there's a way to, I'm always looking at things altruistically, if there's a way to guide the vibe for coding that is appropriate for the room, so that it has a sense of safety built into the vibe. So as you're creating that vibe, it's kind of shaped with what the room is expecting as well. Now, granted, you still need to guide it too. You can't be a moron.
You touched into something extremely interesting to me, because a lot of people, I know, a lot of people get attracted to this new trend because all of a sudden they can talk to a prompt. They can just prompt a model and get exactly what they think that they need back. They don't have to talk to other people. We are very bad in computing. Yes, stereotype, but I'm going to own it because I've seen it, because I've been it. We're very bad at talking to other people. And for some of us, talking to a machine is very comforting. When the whole thing of pair programming came up, I tried it and I liked the beat of having somebody working and thinking with me on the same piece of code. I didn't quite like the idea of one keyboard for two people. But that back and forth of being able to discuss with something in real time the code that was coming up around this idea that we were having, to me, it was very attractive. What I understand is happening with Vibe Code right now, I think that it's, in my old-fashioned understanding, it's more of a zone coding. You get to talking to the LLM and you get into the zone where you're expressing yourself and you're seeing the result coming back, and you are translating that feedback into some refinement of the prompt and asking the machine to make changes, right? But it's less of a back and forth with the machine. Unless you would think that the code being spit back at you is the machine giving you the back. But it's not giving you ideas. It's not questioning your ideas. It's not saying there's a better way of doing it or a different way of doing it.
Right.
It's not like what I believe to understand a jam session. It's not two people riffing together, even like what we're doing here. The machine is not coming back to you and saying, "Oh, have you considered this other approach or this other idea?" No, the machine is just doing what you want, what you tell it to do, what you think that you want it to do. So I think that it's more of a zone thing of getting into that place where you are having your design and having your requirements in your head, aligning into a way that it's easier for you to explain to the model what it wants and leave it to do the heavy lifting of writing the code. Right?
Yeah.
So that's where I think that it goes a bit different from this very difficult job that I understand is a DJ's.
Yeah. Yeah, there's really no feedback loop.
Mhm.
No collaboration, which maybe that's another interesting point, right? How do you
Or there is, but exactly the people who are using this the
right?
most are not the ones equipped to understand the feedback
Mhm.
that's coming from the machine because it's coming in the form of code,
Right. Right.
right? You ask it
Super
to
interesting.
write an app, you are not looking at show me the code, you are asking show me the app. And then you fix the prompt based on what the app is doing or not doing. You're
Right.
not looking at the code and saying, oh,
Right. The app's the
this is
feedback.
what's happening.
That's a good point.
The app is the
As
feedback.
long as somebody's looking back to that whole point, as long
Yeah.
as somebody's looking at the result and the outcome. Ah, too crazy. Super fun times though, isn't it? Let's
Look, we always had crappy software, but we always
true.
put a lot of energy into fixing the crappy software. Now it seems to me that we are putting too much energy into creating more crappy software.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and everything's custom as well.
Mhm.
Well, I'm having Jim Manico and Jimmy Mesta on
Oh,
for we're going to talk about secure code training and a bunch of stuff there. I'm gonna have this
you
a
see,
quick
Jim is the
fire.
guy.
Oh, Jim's
Jim
great.
is the
Yeah.
guy because he had a tweet. It was a tweet at the time. I
Okay.
think 2017 that I use it in almost all of my presentations, where he says that developers, willing or not, are now the front line of security because their code is what goes in front of the world and gets popped. Right? I'm paraphrasing, of course, but I always use those words of his because people don't even know that they are now an attack vector, that they are enlarging the attack surface.
Yeah.
So I just see these as one step in the wrong direction, one more step in the wrong direction towards what he's saying.
Yeah. It's incredible. Jim's a good guy.
Oh yeah.
Glad to know him and and also call him a friend. Um, so let's yeah. So I'll include a link to that webinar when in the show notes when this comes out. But I want to speak to security leaders, their engineering peers in the organization. What what advice can we give them? Kind of
Yeah.
as we wrap up here. So uh, clearly, if I don't know if there's stuff they can do in the SOC and detection and response, but that's going to be too late. So maybe we focus a little further upstream. And uh,
Look,
what do we tell them? How do
at
we
the
help
end,
them?
at the end of the day, we are talking software production. So waiting for the SOC is definitely too late, right? So what I would say is instead of trust but verify, don't trust and still verify, right? Don't let yourself be taken by the optimistic view that things are going to be fine. Treat it as a junior developer. Treat the code that comes from a machine as a junior developer. Apply the same filters that you would otherwise. Still do your code review. Use all the tools that you have at your disposal to check that code. Do not accept it as is and think that it's magical code just because a machine wrote it. Right? At the end of
Are
the
there
day,
special things they need to do though? I'm just wondering. Well, let's think of even at the highest level. Do I know if I have any vibe code running? Is that an important
just
thing?
just assume you do.
Assume you do.
By
Okay,
now, just
there we
assume you
go.
do.
All
Right?
right. And do you treat
So
it differently? Do you have to go after those parts differently, perhaps, or do you just bundle it all in with the rest of the?
I wish I could say treat it differently because then it would be saying that the code that you have that it's not vibe coded is somehow already more secure.
We're not there yet, though.
We're not there yet. So what I'm saying is treat it exactly the same. Don't make it a special thing just because it's vibe coded. Right? And if you are one of those many startups nowadays that profess to the fact that they are completely vibe coded, at some point you are going to have to demonstrate security. Whenever you're acquired or whenever you start giving services to big corporations that have all their security intake procedures and processes, you're going to have to prove security. So be ready for that. Get in front of that. Threat model your stuff. Check your stuff. Pen test your stuff.
Do you know of anybody doing Vibe DevSec? stuff. I come from the world of QA, so Vibe QA, where I did also DevSec.
You know,
I did QA.
Vibe QA is something that I could get behind, because I still think that QA is a lot of feeling. You look at something and you say there's something fishy in there, and then you follow down and you follow and follow, and you end up finding something.
Yeah.
And that's also vibes with the world of threat modeling, right?
Yeah.
And I am just expecting at any moment somebody to come and talk about vibe threat modeling. Don't know what my reaction will be. I'll wait and see. As they say, I'm reserving judgment for when that happens.
Well, as soon as you say that, I'm going back to my DJ thing. Somebody's got to be the feedback to the threat model response.
Right. Somebody has to be the ding between the microphone and the amplifier.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, such a fun topic. Thanks for putting that rant out there, and I guess thanks to LinkedIn for feeding it to me. But most importantly, thanks for joining me on the show here today.
Oh, thank you.
And hopefully, folks were vibing along with us. I hate to overuse it now, but no, seriously, I hope everybody enjoyed the conversation. My whole goal is to get people to take some action on what they're doing with their programs, so we can help protect the business and the revenue that it generates.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Izar, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Hope to see you again soon. I'll look forward to your episode on this topic when it comes out. Please do share it with me.
We're going to have some laughs.
I'll share it with my audience too. And
Awesome.
Everybody listening, watching, thanks for joining me here on Redefining Cybersecurity, as we hope to do just that. And please stay tuned for more. Share and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers, everybody.
ThreatLocker is a zero-trust endpoint protection platform providing enterprise-level cybersecurity to organizations globally. With ThreatLocker, you only allow what you need and block everything else, including ransomware. Learn more at threatlocker.com. At Level Blue, we simplify securing your most valuable business assets by providing broad cybersecurity experience and award-winning services. Level Blue manages the risk. You reap the reward. Learn more at levelblue.com.